The markets are closed, but the business stories are just heating up. Hello, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Catch up with us on Business Brief. Asian shares are mixed on Monday, with surveys showing modest gains in China's factory data, suggesting resilience despite higher U.S. tariffs. Investors are also eyeing developments after the U.S. Court of Appeals ruled that President Donald Trump overstepped in declaring national emergencies to justify sweeping import taxes on nearly all countries. Hong Kong's Hang Seng and China's Shanghai Composite are in the green, while other major indices trade lower. On currencies, the U.S. dollar depreciates against the Thai baht, but gains against the South Korean won. It remains flat versus the Japanese yen, the Hong Kong dollar, and Singapore dollar. The Australian dollar, meanwhile, strengthens against the greenback. In commodities, gold edges higher, up nearly 0.9%, while oil prices are mixed. In crypto, Bitcoin falls more than 1%, and Ethereum drops almost 2%. Newly appointed Public Works and Highways Secretary Vince Dizon vows to revamp the Philippine Contractors Accreditation Board amid allegations of licenses for sale. Senator Panfilo Lacson had alleged that PCAB has been seeking payments for the accreditation of private contractors with fees ranging from 2 to 7 million pesos. Dizon is taking over from Manuel Bonoan, who resigned as DPWH chief this weekend amid the latest corruption scandal. In his first day at the helm of the DPWH, Dizon says contractors behind ghost flood control projects will be permanently blacklisted. He says he will also ask for the courtesy resignation of all DPWH officials. The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee granted Manuel Bonoan's request to be excused from today's hearing on questionable flood control projects. Bonoan attended today's hearing, but panel chair Rodante Marcoleta asked if he wanted to be excused given his resignation. Over at the House of Representatives, Infrastructure Committee co-chair Terry Redon said they will still invite Bonoan to their flood control probe despite his resignation. Facing a Senate hearing today, former Pasig City mayoral candidate and president of one of the top contractors in the country, Alpha and Omega, Sara Discaya, denies using taxpayers' money to buy dozens of her family's cars. Her family controls 9 companies that have cornered around 31 billion pesos worth of flood control projects since 2022. This despite her earlier denial she divested in the companies which surfaced amid the flood control scandal. When asked how they handle hundreds of projects nationwide, Discaya said they participate in regular biddings and win only a fraction of it.
It is common, namely St. Gerard, St. Timothy, Alpha and Omega, Elite General Contractor and Development Corporation, St. Matthew, Great Pacific Builders, YPR General Contractor, Amethyst Horizon Builders, and Waymaker OPC. Am I correct?
Yes, po.
The country's tourism sector gets a boost from the government's Turismo Ascenso program. Under the program, borrowers can avail of loans from 10,000 to 10 million pesos from the Small Business Corporation, the lending arm of the Department of Trade and Industry. Trade Secretary Cristina Roque said the principal amount and interest will be waived within the first year and no collateral is required. She says President Marcos has instructed that all micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises should have access to loans to improve their businesses. Political noise over corruption did not deter investors from the bond market. Dino Aquino, Vice President and Fixed Income Head at Security Bank, tells BNC's Business 360 that potential government reforms could encourage even more investment.
I've been in the market for more than 20 years. It didn't really, the noise, there was a lot of noise for the for the past 20 years.
It's ongoing.
And it's still ongoing, but it didn't really deter foreign bond investors from coming in. But if you mention reforms, possible reforms, then it could actually entice them to invest even more.
Yeah, if the situation gets better, it can even get better.
Even get better.
From an investor standpoint, do government reforms matter as much as rate cuts and growth numbers?
No, it's all about rate cuts.
It's all about rate cuts.
Yeah.
All about interest rate cuts.
All about rate cuts. And of course, the overall macroeconomy.
He adds that current policy rates provide a sweet spot for the bond market.
It's a sweet spot for bonds in terms of it's not going up anytime soon. Rates are not shooting up anytime soon. So if you see a little bit of volatility, it could be an opportunity to invest in bonds. They're still relatively high if you look at the market right now. Pre-pandemic, the policy rates were around 4%. So we're still at around that the 5% level. So it's still relatively attractive if you look at the valuation of bonds.
We're taking a short break. More business stories are up next. You're watching Business Brief. The Justice Department issues a subpoena to DNL subsidiary Oleo Flats Incorporated, or OFI, over a tax evasion complaint filed by the Bureau of Internal Revenue. The case covers alleged failure to supply correct information for tax years 2019 and 2020. OFI is accused of using ghost purchases to overstate expenses and reduce taxable income. DNL says OFI and its officers will respond to the complaint in due course. It denies engaging in such practices and assures the public operations will continue as usual. DNL Industries manufactures specialty raw materials for food ingredients and other consumer products. A group of digital advocates has launched a website to help crack down on illegal online gambling. Digital Pinoy's campaigner Ronald Gustilo says the site accepts reports on unlicensed gambling sites, endorsers, and ads with verified cases to be forwarded to authorities for action. He assured reports can remain anonymous and warned those promoting illegal gambling may face charges. The move empowers Filipinos to help protect communities from its harmful effects. Corruption is threatening the Philippine economy, shaking investor confidence and slowing growth. Sujin Kim has more. Go ahead, Sujin.
There's a motion to issue warrant of
Yes, Mai, if corruption scandals continue to dominate the headlines, economists warn that the Philippines could lose as much as 3 to 5 percentage points from GDP.
So the more frequent we see corruption headlines, then it actually veers away the appetite of investors to the Philippines.
Investor sentiment is already on shaky ground. Once confidence erodes, capital begins to leave. That means foreign exchange outflows, a weaker peso, and added pressure on inflation.
So with the ghost projects, with the certain issues, capital flight, it's actually slashing out productivity. So it would manifest in slower economic growth, slower productivity.
The damage doesn't stop there. Listed conglomerates and banks are also exposed, facing governance risks that could drag outcomes.
They are very much exposed. It would certainly affect their earnings because the corruption issue, there will be a tendency for us to pause operations, pause the developments of new projects, and slow down in these kinds of activities.
Beyond the private sector, economists say the consequences cut deeper. Corruption undermines taxpayer confidence. When Filipinos believe their money is being swallowed by ghost projects, fiscal reforms lose credibility, and the government's ability to fund social protection and infrastructure is weakened. The broader risk, corruption could derail the Philippines' ambition to reach $1 trillion economy status and achieve upper middle income classification.
Because again, of the leakages that are not really contributing to productivity.
The bottom line, corruption is no longer just a political issue. It is an economic threat capable of stalling public and private growth. And those are latest updates from Quezon City. Back to you, Mai.
Thank you for that report, Sujin Kim. Motorists face another round of fuel price hikes this week. The Energy Department expects gasoline to go up by 60 centavos per liter, diesel by 1 peso, and kerosene by 50 centavos. The DOE says the increase is driven by a drop in U.S. inventories and new U.S. tariffs on India. The latest adjustment puts more pressure on transport costs and consumer spending, with ripple effects on inflation, business operations, and the wider economy. We're taking another breather, a look at how Philippine shares did today. When we return, stay tuned. You're back on Business Brief. Vladimir Putin claims to have President Donald Trump on how to end the Ukraine war at the Alaska summit. The Russian president was addressing leaders at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit in Shenzhen, where he also held meetings with China's Xi Jinping and India's Narendra Modi. Putin, who ordered the invasion of Ukraine in 2022, however, said the conflict was not Moscow's fault. 3.5 years into the war, both sides have intensified airstrikes in recent weeks.
I'd like to use this opportunity to say that Russia uses the same approaches regarding the crisis in Ukraine. I will remind you that this crisis was created not as a result of Russia attacking Ukraine. It emerged as a result of coup d'etat in Ukraine that was provoked and supported by the West. What followed were armed attempts to suppress the resistance of the regions of Ukraine and people of Ukraine who did not accept that coup d'etat.
Chinese President Xi Jinping calls on members of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit to leverage their mega-scale market. The SCO has set a model for a new type of international relations. China will provide $280 million worth of free aid to member states this year and $1.4 billion worth of loans from an SCO banking consortium. The members are expected to sign a declaration and agree to strengthen security, economic, and cultural cooperation.
We have taken the lead in proposing a global governance concept based on consultation, joint contribution, and shared benefits, practicing genuine multilateralism, deepening cooperation with the United Nations and other international organizations, and constructively participating in international and regional affairs, always standing on the side of international fairness and justice. We advocate cultural inclusiveness and mutual learning among civilizations, and oppose hegemony and power politics.
Iran-backed Houthi forces raid UN offices in Yemen and detain at least 11 employees. The raids targeted the World Food Program, the WHO, and UNICEF amid heightened security following the killing of top Houthi officials, including their prime minister, in an Israeli airstrike. Yemen's Houthi leader Abdul Malik al-Houthi vowed to escalate attacks on Israel.
The martyrs, as is clear, are government officials serving ministers. The entire list of martyrs includes ministers working in civilian capacities. The Israeli enemy, with its criminality and brutality, even targets children, women, and unarmed civilians. Therefore, this crime of targeting ministers and civilian workers adds to its criminal record throughout the region.
Indonesia is moving to strip lawmakers of special privileges after deadly protests in Jakarta. Political parties have agreed to remove a number of their perks and benefits. This was announced by President Prabowo Subianto on Sunday. Protests against those perks have so far left at least 5 people dead. Homes of some political party members and government facilities were ransacked or set on fire. The president has ordered the military and police to arrest looters, warning that their actions may be considered terrorism and treason.
Para pimpinan DPR menyampaikan
I have ordered the police and the Indonesian National Armed Forces to take the strongest possible action against all forms of damage to public facilities, looting of individual homes, public places, or economic centers, in accordance with applicable law.
The unrest matters to the Philippines because Indonesia is a key regional partner in the ASEAN. Instability there can affect trade, investor sentiment, and regional security coordination. Philippine shares closed the first trading day of the week in the red. The PSEI ended lower by 0.2%, closing at 6140, making it the sixth worst performer in Asia. Most sectoral indices ended in the red, with holding firms falling the most at 0.6%. Advancers outnumbered decliners 110 to 96, while total value turnover reached 4.2 billion pesos. The day's most active stocks ended mixed. PLDT fell the most, down more than 3%, while Converge rose over 2%. In the foreign exchange market, the peso is trading weaker at 57.29 to the dollar compared to the previous close of 57.13. That's a wrap for today's Business Brief. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Join us again tomorrow as we bring you the stories that help you plan your next big, bold moves in business. Only here on the Bilyonaryo